So, yeah, hopefully found that stimulating, maybe evocative. So, yeah, that's what we're doing with this. So we'll have a chance to ask Arthasiddhi some questions. But I thought let's just take, let's say 5 minutes in small groups, just to share any kind of key responses that you've had to anything that has been said, and try and formulate any questions. You might already have a question, or maybe formulate a question through chatting with each other. I say chatting, it's not chit chat, it's hard focus here, so you've only got 5 minutes. Get into 4s, maybe 3s actually. Get into 3s, and do that. Obvious areas like in your mind, you think, oh, we didn't get onto that.
Well, Samudra goes from saying more about your two friendship. Your two friendship. Yeah.
Someone took downstairs, we're talking about the Greeks and how much they value friendship, and I was just struck through other sources that how come civilization is so primitive in our culture now, something that's so I had notes that didn't make it into the interview, but like in friendship, something is sometimes someone gets called out to us, and there are sort of latent qualities that falls out. Other times, we're challenged to go beyond a particular response or reaction. I think I was going to ask you about, just what recently, like you said, couldn't write Buddhism on your own.
Yeah, maybe I should get some. You'll get it. Sorry, last someone. Oh, I'll get it. Do you want some more?
in those situations where parents have got no control to do it. Oh yeah, what was
sounds good from what feels like people are focused.
cultures and saying, oh, it's just getting rid of you know, told yourself that, you know, the macho kind of stuff, but, you know, don't be, on
There's also a question came up downstairs around someone mentioned they're thinking about their children in relation to this, or how will they get on how will their children get on in terms of will they not individually, like how will each child fare
in their lives
as they grow up,
and how to encourage them in that.
Well, you just mentioned that, and then I thought, maybe there's a question in there around conditioning and temperament. Also, might ask you about people that you look up to, friends who you see them being good friends. Wow, that's not writing. Conditioning, temperament. Wow. Okay, and then I think we'll have 40 minutes for this meeting.
40 minutes. Okay.
I don't think I've got a program, but give them what I need.
I haven't really got a question from that. Just I would say from that, where we're in life and where we're all this stuff that originates to
I think we might have got something with late arrivals. Okay, so just bringing that round, finishing a sentence, and then coming back to the main group, or not. Great. Good. I was kind of slightly in two minds as to whether to let you keep talking. It did sound like kind of getting into the subject theme. But yes, this is the chance to put questions to Arthasiddhi. We'll have about 40 minutes for this bit, so hopefully the cameras are on. So great. So yeah, and just in chatting with some of you downstairs, a few questions came up, so I've got a few things that I might ask as well. But yeah, let's see what we've got. Then we've got a question for Arthasiddhi.
Yeah, we were touching, obviously the risk part was really interesting, taking risks, but then also it being a generous thing. So often we think, oh, I'm here and I need to get a friend, or they need to fulfill that role, and actually thinking in terms of being a friend and being generous, and not so much what do I get out of it. But I've noticed recently, just noticing the effect one can have on people that you don't quite realise.
Oh yeah.
If you're not like just you as a person, giving your time, and that people appreciate that. So yeah, so this idea of seeing friendship as more of a generous act than something you gain. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I was just thinking about that myself as well, because I think like maybe one way of thinking about that is just participating in Sangha. Like actually that is a generous thing, isn't it? Just kind of coming to the centre, but you know, within that spirit, not coming to the centre of oh God, I could really do with, you know, my meditation's been flagging. I mean, of course that comes up. It's not that that's a bad thing, but actually there's another way of coming to the centre, and that is that this generous sort of thing that actually, so you sort of participate in Sangha, and you don't really know what will come out from that. Just as you say, you might affect people much more than you realise, and that's all in a way a sort of well, it can change us, can't it? It can change how we think about our lives. So we sort of learn something just through participating in Sangha, and then there's this added sort of element of just having your sort of friendship radar kind of you know, oh, I think, you know, think could go further with this person, you know, and then you can just sort of follow that up, and maybe you're wrong, you know, maybe it won't, that's fine. It's all still sort of part of this sort of participating in Sangha. So maybe that's a helpful way to sort of distinguish, because sometimes people can be participating in Sangha, and then because we talk in Triratna, we use this word friendship a lot in Triratna, you can end up thinking that is friendship, and you know, because we all will say that, you know, Sangha is a network of friendship, and so that's what we're doing here. It's just that can be at a certain stage of your involvement, you can start to see, oh, I thought this was friendship, but actually there's a whole deeper thing that I feel like I haven't got in my life, if you see what I mean. So I think it can be helpful sort of to distinguish between sort of participating in Sangha, that generous activity of participating in Sangha, and then actually sort of deeper friendships, you know, just to, as I say, that word friendship gets used to cover lots of different things, but I think that can be helpful to sort of distinguish a little bit from kind of participating in Sangha, and then actually sort of identifying, oh, this relationship could go deeper and could be more of a sort of, I suppose the difference is commitment, you know, that actually friendship is mutual, so you both friends. It goes both ways, and that's what's different. In the sort of Sangha thing, there's this generous, everybody going out to everybody sort of mentality, which is a really, really positive thing. It's just that it's a bit distinct in terms of this explicit mutuality that's happening in friendship, and that then enriches this participating in Sangha. We need you know, those sort of committed friendships in the Sangha, for the Sangha to sort of keep its spirit and its depth and its life, really. Yeah, so I think that's one way I've been sort of thinking about it, yeah. Is that?
Yeah, that's right.
No. Just add a couple of points. I think sometimes the dividing line, or the sort of way you can tell that where one has distinguished itself from the other, is that it doesn't have to happen at the centre, and it probably isn't happening at the centre. It's friendship is kind of, we're still based on Dharma and practice, but it's not just when you happen to see each other at the centre, it's kind of gone, broken free from these four walls. Just in terms of participation, it struck me that actually, you know, the way Arthasiddhi is talking about coming and participating, part of that is being generous with your questions, so don't be shy.
We're mainly focusing on male-to-male friendship. Aren't we?
Yeah.
Of course, the movement has many women in it, and the majority of is now women. What about our friendships with women? In the movement? as well. I mean,
What about that? Yeah, that's an important area, isn't it? And I think I think it's a bit like one way Bante talks about friendship is training in selflessness, and that is easier to do, or I think that's a more rigorous training in single-sex friendships. So if you engage in that, you will become a better friend to women. If you don't engage in that, you may not. So I think I find that sort of that notion of kind of training in selflessness, which means actually you engage in friendship and you see what comes up, and you're like, oh right, oh god, I didn't realise that was going on. I think things are much more likely to come up and clarify in single-sex friendships than they are in mixed-sex friendships. So, I found that my friendships with women have much benefited from my friendships with men. So I don't think it is a kind of I think actually both your male friendships and your male-female friendships will benefit from you kind of deepening your practice of male friendship. Yeah, that's been my experience. But yeah, I think it's something to explore with the people that know you. Actually, it's a sort of area where our blind spots can come in. So I think if that's something that you're exploring for yourself, sort of talk with your kind of spiritual friends. Explore it, get their angle. Because sometimes it's more enjoyable to spend time with women than it is with men. Sometimes that can come up. They're more sort of responsive, more generous, more appreciative, more engaged sometimes than men are. Appear to be, right. Yeah. So I think. Anyway, perhaps does that give you some?
Yeah. No, I see what you mean. At some level, it's more of a challenge to kind of work on genuine male friendships.
Yeah.
And to show one's softer side and be soft and vulnerable with another man.
Yeah, that's a really important point, actually, isn't it? Often that just gets reserved for the wife, the partner.
Yeah.
And we engage with men and it doesn't come in, and we miss out, our male friends miss out, because that's kind of, we do that somewhere else. Yeah. Great.
Thanks.
What else we got?
Perhaps just to add to that, you are ultimately trying to go beyond, ultimately, the ideal, the Buddha is, was called the good friend, as in the good friend to everybody. And so that is the sort of direction that you're going in, but you just need to not be naive about that, see what you need to focus on in order to move in that direction. See what I mean? Yeah.
Thank you.
I was wondering also in terms of finding a balance between deepening existing friendship and then making space for new one. Because time is always a bit of a strong constraint for that.
Yeah. Have you got any answers?
Sorry, I'm still exploring for myself. I was wondering if you have any tips.
I mean, I can totally relate to the question. I mean, one thing that I find in that area is that it's rather strange. Like at times, I think, oh my God, I've got too many friends, too many people to keep up with. This isn't manageable. I need to sort of do something about this, and what can I do? And then 6 months later, it's like it's like I'm in a different situation somehow. So that's been my regular experience with this area. That sometimes I felt like, oh God, my friends have left Cambridge and haven't got any, haven't got any deep friends, good friends in Cambridge. I'm thinking, where, I'm looking around thinking, where can that come from? I can't see any, any opportunities on the horizon, sort of thing. And then 6 months later, it's like something's emerged. So I think our social world is actually just sort of very transient, fluid. So that's one thing that I found helpful when I find myself in that sort of state, thinking, okay, well, let's not take this too literally as an issue. It was probably going to kind of change in some sort of way. It probably won't be like this kind of forever. So I think that's one thing that I've just noticed in my life. I think, though, temperament is an aspect of this. I think sometimes we spread ourselves too thin, and that sort of prevents you from kind of going deeper, and then you feel that your friendships are not really communication. You're meeting up with people is not really communication, because you're too on the surface of your experience to actually, be present enough for communication to happen. So I think it's one of those, that getting the right balance between that sort of generous aspect of outwardly moving to more and more people, and the kind of going deeper. I think it's the sort of thing that you need to talk with your Kalyana Mitras, talk with your spiritual friends, and work out. Because if you do go deeper, you'll be able to do both. That's what sort of happens. That I was talking with an order member recently on the order weekend. That that sort of outward going can just get a little bit shallow, and then it's not even as effective on its own terms if there isn't that going deeper. So have a talk with your spiritual friends about what's the focus for you at the moment, and it will keep shifting. I think that's the thing. Our social life is a shifting, whatever you call it, medium. Does that give you?
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Okay.
Just add something on the back of that. Just if we spend a good amount of time with someone, maybe we want a shared project together, or we do a bunch of retreats with them, and you really cultivate the friendship based on that time, then that probably, without kind of sounding calculating, that will then kind of carry, hopefully, and you can just meet up with them, probably much less frequently, but you've got that, the friendship has been established. I think often it's a case of getting to that point of established friendship, isn't it? And then then it needs to be maintained, obviously, but maybe think in terms of establishing a friendship can take more sometimes than and not thinking that you're going to have to carry on doing that over time.
That's true. Just another little thought to that is that sometimes this participating in Sangha, we can sort of overestimate what we need to do, like it's meeting up with coffee, with 50 people sort of thing. And actually, what I notice is just remembering people's name at the newcomers class. Well, that's what we're talking about. It's that sort of act of generous interest in someone else. And in the tea break or after the class, it can be 20 seconds makes a difference, because there's that sort of consistency. So I think that's the other thing, not to sort of set your notion of what that generous kind of going out to more and more people actually entails, and looking for opportunities where you can do that effectively with less time, demanding less time, because sometimes we can spend a lot of time and actually it doesn't have that much effect. So let's not do that. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
What other questions we've got?
In terms of your comment earlier at the beginning, when we talked about the Buddha saying that there is no spirituality without friendship.
Yeah.
And I kind of get that. That feels like a really nice place to be with any journey, spiritual non-journey. But is there a difference between spiritual friendship and all our other friendships? All of the female family, children, parents, work colleagues.
That's a good question. Yeah, and I don't think I know the answer to that. Actually, I think I don't. Yeah, I think Bante has written about this in one of his short writings towards the end of his life. The good friend, the bad friend, and the spiritual friend, or something like that. And yeah, I guess one way of talking about the difference between a good friend and a spiritual friend is that spiritual friendship happens within the context of the spiritual life. So that means that the friendship can have a much more far-reaching effect spiritually. You can help, if you help your friend, well, they'll be able to grow spiritually, and then because of that, they'll be able to help more and more people grow spiritually. So I think that's one way of thinking about the distinction, because that's within the question, isn't it? What do we mean actually by an ordinary friendship and a spiritual friendship? But if we think of it in that sort of way, then that's a little bit sort of clearer, isn't it? That we're talking about the context of the spiritual life, friendship within the context of the spiritual life. So if you are practicing the spiritual life with your spiritual friends, you will also be in contact with people who are not practicing the spiritual life. And what are the possibilities of those relationships? So those relationships could develop, could be friendships, couldn't they? So I guess that's one way of thinking about it. That by its nature, unless somebody actually chooses to get involved in the spiritual life, that spiritual friendship is not possible between you. Do you see what I mean? So it can be a good friendship, a really good kind of human friendship.
Which could be deeper than the spiritual friendship. You can't sort of say one's better than the other, can you? Well, I don't think so. But they're both different journeys, aren't they?
Well, you could say that one is better than the other, but that would be rather black and white, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It's just that we need to not be black and white either way, I'd say, and say that actually there is a difference, and spiritual friendship could have an enormous effect, not just on your personal life, but on the lives of others. That's the sort of possibilities of it, which is not the case with an ordinary friendship, or the extent of it is not the same. I think actually ordinary friendship affects everybody. If you've got friendship in your life, actually people pick up on that. When in your interactions, it is a positive thing in your own life, and therefore it will communicate its way through in our other interactions. If that's happening in your family, there's possibility of deepening friendships, isn't there? And then other family members will see that and they will be affected by that. They'll be invited into that. So, yeah, I think there is a difference. There is a difference, but we need to be sort of careful about how we define that difference, because it's not a black and white sort of thing.
Both, of my view, are kind of beneficial. Both can be very deep and transforming.
I think that's right. Yeah. Though I think we need to be careful about that word deep. What exactly do we mean by deep? Because, for example, another member was saying to me about Kamala Sheila that he's someone who'd never had a close connection with, but when he died, he was really affected by that. Now that's not sort of deep personal. If we think of deep as personal, then we'd miss the fact that there's this whole other sort of level of depth or aspect of depth that is spiritual, that was clearly there in this order member's relationship with Kamala Sheila. So yeah, I think we just need to be a bit more nuanced about how we think about this area. Yeah.
Just going to add one thing. There's obviously when two people come together, there's certain says anything can happen. It's kind of communication is a mystery, isn't it? And yeah, I think sometimes despite the odds, some connection can open up. Sort of against all the odds.
Yeah.
And at the same time, what a friendship is based on. Sort of the thing that you most have in common will affect the friendship. And you've got Aristotle's famous delineation of friendship. So friendship based on on pleasure, on utility, on pleasure, and the good. So yeah, friendship that's based on any one of those things will tend to affect the quality of the friendship. And I suppose, in talking about spiritual friendship, we're talking about friendship based on the good. So it will tend to affect the quality and I suppose the possibilities of friendship.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, in a way, that's a different distinction, isn't it, from thinking of it sort of contextually, because a friendship outside of the Sangha could be more based on the good than our friendship inside the Sangha. It could be that that's based on a subtle competition, for example. That's good.
What else we got? Any more questions? Michael?
I was thinking, just came to mind, you mentioned earlier about I may be misquoting, but something around loss. You have to have experienced loss to appreciate friendliness.
Oh yeah.
Can you say a bit more about that?
Yeah. It's a poem by Naomi Shihab called Kindness. And I can't quite remember the first line, but it's something like that. Before we can something of kindness, before we can realise the value of kindness, we have to lose things. I was relating to that to how I think it is difficult to really see the value of friendship until we find ourselves in an existential situation. And then suddenly you realise, God, actually all this that I've been doing and putting energy into, it means nothing in this new context where my wife is dying, or my child is dying or something like that. It just means nothing. So that's what I mean. That when we lose things, it takes us out of the sort of superficial, perhaps consumerist sort of story we have about what progress in life is really about. When something goes, we suddenly realise our sort of existential nakedness, to call it that. We're suddenly sort of brought back into brought back to earth, aren't we? A truer perspective. That's sort of what I was getting at.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I think it does. I was trying to sort of relate it to my own experience a little bit. I guess it's like when you do experience loss, you really get into feelings, whereas a lot of the time,
yeah,
you sort of trying not to feel stuff.
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
getting on with doing.
That's right. Yeah. Feelings are too inconvenient, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see if we can kind of organise life so that they don't need to come into play, sort of thing. Yeah. But of course, that feelings can indicate what's really important. Yeah. And we sort of overlook them and sort of comfort them down at our peril, really. Yeah. And then when you lose things, that becomes apparent. Yeah.
I guess the last bit of that is, maybe it's included in what you just said, but you then notice, a kindness or an act of love. You're there, kind of existentially naked, as you said, and it goes in.
Yeah.
And that matters. That's
Yeah.
what matters.
In the poem, then you realise the value of kindness,
right,
or the value of friendship. You suddenly realise, oh gosh, I've been overlooking what really matters to me. It's uncanny how capable we are of doing that. We can just live a life that's not ours. It's not what's important to us without realising it. It sounds like we wouldn't do that. We wouldn't be able to do that. That we'd know what's important to us, but it's not true. It's not true.
Takes us back to where we started with you and your climbing friend.
Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. Yeah.
I've got a question. We've been in touch recently, and you've had some communication of a particular nature to engage with in Cambridge, a challenging nature.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't thought to mention this actually, but maybe I will mention this. So you told me about a quite a challenging interaction that you had with somebody, and that, well, at first I was kind of quite I was impressed with your response to that, and just lack of reactivity. And actually we thought together a bit about like what might be a good a good sort of next step. And then it transpired that this person there was about a week, I think, in between, and then you met with this person again, and it went really well, basically. Things opened up in that, which I was just delighted to hear. And one of the things that you said after that was that you couldn't do what you're doing, like being so involved as you are at the centre, kind of on your own. And the implication was that you were able to affect quite a significant change in the relationship through your friendships, basically. I wondered if you could say
Through my friendships.
Through not being on your own.
Oh right, because of my friendships. Yeah.
I wondered if you could say a bit about
that. Yeah. I had a thought about that whilst you were saying, and now it's just disappeared. It slipped through my fingers. I think it's I think what it is it's related to this thing about selflessness, and how our evolutionary makeup is self-interested. That's the Buddha there's that quote, isn't there, in the Dhammapada, that the mind throbs and vibrates when cast from one abode to another, like a fish cast a fish out of water cast onto dry land. That there's the element of that with the spiritual life, we're sort of this self-identity is trying to get us to go beyond this self-identity, and I think that, you know, if you keep practicing the spiritual life, you're going to run up against you're going to exhaust those egoistic motives, basically.
Throbbing and vibrating mind.
You will find yourself in a situation where you think, I have not got the resources, the spiritual resources to keep going with this, and that is an important experience in the spiritual life, to actually encounter difficulties that where your kind of necessary at an earlier stage egoistic motives aren't adequate to the challenge that you're meeting, basically. I think friendship is one of the things that that can come in. That actually, friendship offers us another form of sort of spiritual sustenance. That, you know, things like mudita, basically, that are not about me.
Sympathetic joy.
Sympathetic joy. So yeah, mudita is one of the Brahma Viharas, isn't there? So there's metta, mudita, karuna, and upeksha. But I find with me, and my friendships, there's a love and a sort of a joy that comes from those friendships. That's not egoistic, basically. So those friendships can sustain me when I'm on the end of something that is kind of that maybe it's not going to work out. It shouldn't be this way. It's not going to work out for me. It's not going to work out for the centre. This is all going wrong, sort of thing. That sort of scenario. Where do you find your sustenance for that? In friendship, I find that it's not something that I calculated. It's something that's just sort of happened. That actually, without those friendships, without that sort of mudita, just being able to delight in someone else, completely sort of forget about how this isn't working out for me and for the situation. And I don't see where I'd be able to sort of draw sufficient resources to actually get through a situation. But just to clarify, that situation is going to come up in your spiritual life. It's not just that Buddhist centres are hard. No, it's this thing about the mind throbs and vibrates when cast from one abode to another. It's of the nature of the spiritual life to exhaust your egoistic motives, to get to the end of your egoistic motives, and need to find some other sustenance that is non-egoistic. That is going to happen for all of us. Yeah. So I think, that's what.
We talk about going for refuge, don't we? And we are trying to go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And what you've articulated there, I think, is a very tangible example of what that can mean and what that can what that can look like through you're going for refuge to, rather than your egoistic motives in that interaction. There's something else that you're going for refuge to, which means that you're kind of got an image of your kind of you know, you're still there, you're still in the room, you're connected with something, you're sustained by something, and without that, you know, we can't kind of can't practice out of an idea, can we? We need something that we can sort of grab hold of. We can't grab hold of it, but you know what I mean, something that's there, so that we can then, you know, reach for something that's going to actually help, something that's going to further.
Yeah, well, I mean, one way of just talking about that territory is positive emotion. You know, Bante's put this very great emphasis on positive emotion, that actually the spiritual life, without positive emotion, you won't be able to sustain it. And where's that positive emotion going to come from when everything's pushing you? You know, success, which inevitably we use as a motive. We want to sort of succeed, don't we, in our spiritual lives? But what happens when it's all, you know, that's not available to us, and even friendship in the situation is not available to us. And, where do we draw our positive emotion from to keep going? Yeah.
How are we doing? Any more? Yeah. Sorry, Gusha.
You're a busy fellow, Arthasiddhi. You've got a lot of responsibility in Cambridge, so why come to North London Centre to the interview on a Saturday morning? Sunday morning.
Because we're great. No.
Smidragosha said he was going to ask that question. I thought, oh, that's an interesting question. Probably not in anyone else's mind. Why come? Anandavajra asked me ages ago, and I wasn't sure whether I'd be busy. I mean, I guess it's partly because Anandavajra asked me. So, dear friend, so I'd want to support what he's doing, and then it's partly the context as well. Just other men kind of coming together, interested in this area. I sort of want to respond to that to the extent that I can want to support that. Yeah. I mean, I will say, I'm very, very glad I've come. Actually, it's been lovely to talk about this area. As ever, when you kind of when you give something, you end up getting back things that you haven't expected, and it certainly for me it's sort of deepened my reflections on certain areas, which I found very valuable. But also, it's just been lovely seeing Anandavajra, because we're both Mitch communers, we've got friendship, goes back a long way, but it's lovely seeing you as Mitch communer, actually, just getting a glimpse of that. Despite your very warm introduction, mentioning that I'm very good at seeing the particularity of people. There's a quality of yours that I didn't see for years and years, but another friend said to me, the thing about Anandavajra is you always feel like you can be yourself. You always feel like you can be yourself, and I thought, that's it, that's so well put. And actually I've sort of just kind of taken that for granted for probably about like 15 years, because I feel like I can be myself. But it's lovely seeing it here, that there's something about the way you go about this. I'm turning the tables on you.
You're going to finish in a minute, don't you?
I can see you scratching your head going, this wasn't the plan. Yeah, but there's something you do it almost without, I think part of the reason why I overlooked it for so long is because it's not a calculated quality. It's kind of natural to you, that just in the way that you talk and interact with people, somehow it communicates this sense that, oh, you know, actually we can be ourselves about this. We don't need to be all like really tidy and stuff, and we can have kind of messy things going on, and that's not sort of banished, can actually just sort of be real. But it's lovely seeing that actually as part of this event, that quality kind of coming through. But it's a quality that I love as well, and have appreciated in our friendship. So there we are. So I get sort of seeing that as well in this quality. So there's an element of mudita in the, it wasn't the intention, but it's the result. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I could jokingly draw proceedings to a finish there, but I won't do that. At the risk of hearing more about myself. But I will draw an end to the proceedings here. Nonetheless, I think we have come to the end of our time. So yeah, it just remains for me to say, just really thanks so much for coming down, Arthasiddhi. It's great to have you here. It's sort of been a strange thing for a while that we talk a lot about the centre and what's happening here, and that I think you have stepped foot in here, but I haven't seen you here. So great for you just to come here, and really appreciated you expounding and elucidating on different aspects of friendship. And I feel like we have done some justice to the theme. Not easy, I think, to sort of get underneath it. But I hope at least that we've done that. Thanks very much again for coming down.
Thanks for inviting me. Yeah.
Great. I think on the programme it says next steps now, but I don't know whose name is written next to that.
No, it doesn't say a name.
Doesn't say a name. Do you want to say anything? Shall I say something?
You say something.
I think, David mentioned a few things coming up already. If you like coming here and keep coming. And if you've might be your first time meeting with other men, if you felt that maybe there's something that I responded to, just keep coming. And anything else to say?
When's the next men's event?
Next one of these, there's no date yet, but probably sometime. Will certainly be something in May. So
Couple of months.
So I think that's it. Yeah, it's great. Really great to see you all. So come back again.
I think we're sharing food down.